This video is going to show you solo Grandmaster Nightfall with the exotic LMG Grand Overture, which is an arc heavy machine gun. Just want to showcase that off because it's not getting a lot of use, and it's probably because of things like Storm Chaser and Linear Fusions are in a good spot and stuff like that. That's why you're not seeing a lot of play in some of these other unique exotics. So yeah, I want to showcase this exotic off, so I can just give you sort of brief description on how I see this weapon. So the two main perks of it is that it's full auto, right? So it's a non-crit weapon. So think of Xenophage. It does the same thing as what Xenophage does in terms of like Xenophage, like you just shoot at the target. You don't need to think about crits, right? And it does that, you know, that damage. Grand Overture does the same as this. However, it has an extra added mechanic where for every hit that you get, it loads a missile, which is not based on the ammo. These missile volleys, which is like Warcliffe coil ammo. So think of it like this: you're loading Warcliffe coil ammo into the machine gun to then use at a later point. You can stack up to 20 volleys, which I recommend that you always just stack 20. I wouldn't recommend like doing like 10. Just do 20. Just to get the max potential out of it. Depends what you're using it on, I guess. But if you're using it on like a champ or a boss, then 20 volleys, right? As I said, it's not counted for ammo. So this weapon has 60 shots, which is double Xenophage, right? Xenophage, as I said, it fulfills a similar role. I'm not sure which does more DPS because I'm not into DPS testing so much these days. But that's the role that it fills. It is sort of similar to Xenophage, but with that volley thing that it does, which I'm going to showcase once I build up my stacks. The downside to the weapon is that you're not always going to have that volley up. So it means you've got to sort of use it and not sit on the ammo so much. So, but the thing about it though is it's really good on ammo economy because one brick can give you 20 shots, I believe. Just take notice when I pick up heavy. This is my first run with the gun. My first Grandmaster with the gun. I've barely used it. I've only used this weapon literally just to level the catalyst up, which I've done on the moon or whatever. Or grasp it, what was one of the two. And that's all I've done to get the catalyst. So I have not used this weapon in endgame. This is my first run with it. I haven't done any tests at all. So, just as I said, I wanted to see its damage. Now this Nightfall is acute burn arc. So that's going a pro for it. Plus I'm using high energy fire and radiant, so that's helping it out as well. So just bear that in mind. I am using some buffs with it to make it more effective. But it would still be quite effective without it. The catalyst gives it blinding, which is quite odd because anything that you shoot at, like enemy wise, is going to die anyways. So it does have a blinding effect, which is alright. But I'm certainly not using it for the blinding effect. It's more so, just to show off its damage. So what I'm doing there, right, obviously with this section, you can see I'm charging like ×2. I wanted to get some ability kills on the snipers, which means I will keep high energy fire because high energy fire is linked to your weapons, not your abilities. So if I kill enemies with abilities, I maintain high energy fire for this champ down below because it's the first champ we want to take. So here's the thing with this weapon, and you're going to see that it's noticeable. It's not, it has travel time. It's not like hit scan, right? The wave that it shoots has a bit of travel time to it. So it can make it awkward to be using it on mobile targets, right? I can see where that's where people would sort of lean away from it. Not only that, the rate of fire, right? It takes a little bit of time to sort of charge up, but once you get going in that full auto mode, it's fun to use. But as I said, it's best used on chunky type of enemies like champions, certain bosses, but like wizards and stuff, or enemies that are prone to just dodge your fire, you're going to struggle with this weapon on that, right? So it depends on the enemy type that you face against. But if you are up against the right type of enemies, then you're going to really do well with this machine gun. I'm going to show you, as I say, as we get to champs, because I'm loaded. or should be close to max loaded for volleys. See, that's another thing. When you store the weapon, you won't lose the buff. Whereas there's a couple other weapons where you have a buff or something, you store the weapon, you lose a buff from that particular weapon, and that's always a bad gameplay loop. But for this weapon, thankfully, you keep the missiles loaded. Right, now I'm going to fight behind this rock because I need to kill this unstoppable before the enemies do, lest I wouldn't get platinum rank if I was to complete said run. If you don't tag that champ, you will, as I say, lose out on plat. So, well, that's if you skip a champ later on, which I'll come to. But what I'm doing here is using the Heart of Inmost light build, as you saw at the start of the video. That's what I'm using with fusion grenade. I'm just changing it up. Obviously, my go-to is generally thermite or solar. I used firebolt the other day, which worked out effective because you get more nades because it has a base cooldown. It's the lowest base cooldown grenade that we have for solar, which is firebolt. The next lowest cooldown is fusion grenades, and we know the fusion grenades are good in any case. They're better on a warlock just because of the aspect, but they're still good on Titan. So I just went with this setup just for a change. But as I say, I could have easily went thermite. I always use thermite. So, and solar nade's good, really good for scorching, but a really slow. I feel as though it's quite a slow grenade. Enemies seem to step out of the nade so fast and stuff like that. Good on champs though. So we're going to showcase the Grand Overture weapon off. We had Radiant. That's the only buff that we had there. We weren't charged with light, and he just about killed that champion after one shield break. So what you'll also notice is the recoil on the weapon. It's quite steep. Not when you're using it in a single fire mode, that's fine. It's when you're using the missiles. Just know that your aim just needs to be in the vicinity of the enemy. The missiles will do the rest of the work for you as long as your reticle's close. The reticle goes all the way up if you don't try and control it. So it is quite crazy, but that's the nature of the weapon. Just think of it as a machine gun Warcliffe coil hybrid, because those missiles are what coil fires, just that there's more of them, I think. So you'll see a little bit from range. I'm just going to prime this champ first. When we say prime, I mean that we're priming for his first shield break, because on the second stun you get more time, so that's why sometimes I'll do stuff like that. Obviously we're using Revitalize and Blast just to help out with champs. He's the single fire shot mode. Now look at the damage it just done there. That's pretty good gun. Like Xenophage would be very similar to what that was. And it's less ammo. As I say, I'm not here to say that this is better than Xeno. I'm not 100% because I haven't compared the two. But it plays a similar role in my eyes to what that gun does. With this missile mechanic thing that doesn't cost any ammo. Right, so look, I've got 15 stacks, which is a good amount of stacks, and I can use that for the next priority target, and I've literally just used it. So it's really good on high priority targets, which that's what we're dealing with Nightfalls. Look at the ammo as well. So look, I'm getting 20 per brick. It holds 60. I'm getting a third of my ammo reserves back per brick. That is really, really, really good ammo economy. Xenophage is nowhere near as good that way for ammo. I was wanting to showcase this gun off. I made it in. I put it in a poll. Some people voted for it, some people didn't. But I knew I was already gonna do that. Well, I would do this run anyways, despite it not getting voted for. Because, as I said, this gun hasn't been showcased so much since its release, apart from when it was glitched. If you saw what I just done there, I reloaded the checkpoint. The checkpoint was bugged. You need to have approached the drilling site before you jump down to this champ. If you don't, you need to back up. Checkpoint's bugged on the invited Spire, so just as long as you know that. We'll build up a couple more shots, do a good bit of champ damage. We're using the kinetic pulse rifle new purpose with adaptive munitions. Top tier. It's a top tier kinetic pulse for GMs. Like, end of discussion. It's fantastic, and I've been using it ever since I got it, I guess. Really good on barrier shields. On unmatched shields, not as good, but you can still make it work. I'll showcase that a little bit later on. We're charged with light still, so my goal, right, this is why I love Titan so much, because You can get a lot of ability kills, which means you can maintain Charge of Light and use it when you sort of want. Obviously, I could just get another grenade kill and get another elemental well off said enemy. So I can do it that way as well. Like this. And I'll get an extra stack. You get 1 stack of Charge of Light per unmatched well. So if I pick up a Void Well, which I've got Reaping Well Maker, I'll only get 1 stack. But with a Solar Well, I'll get 2 stacks, which is 2 stacks of High Energy Fire. And obviously High Energy Fire is so good now because, well, it always has been good. I've been using it for years. But the reason why it's better now is because it's stacking with Radiant. Whether that's bugged or not, I'm not sure. I don't know if it is because they haven't said that that it is. And it's been like this for ages. I'm sure they watch content creators. And everyone's using it. Stacking High Energy Fire with Radiant. So we'll soon see if that's bugged or not. I don't know. As I say, I haven't been reading much twabs lately, so you know, so that's why everyone's using High Energy Fire, because it's stacking. With High Energy, with Radiant being with High Energy Fire being a lower buff than Radiant, it means they stack, whereas like Lucent Blade doesn't, which is kind of unfortunate actually. I kind of like the direction we're going, where we're going back to buffs. We're going back to stacking buffs like Escalation Protocol era, if anyone remembers that. The buffs and debuffs we were all stacking back then was crazy. It made team play more interesting. I'll be honest, it made team play far more interesting. When they nerfed all that stuff and we went to 1 buff, 1 debuff, that's all you're allowed to stack, right? The game got a little boring, must admit. Got a little boring for buffs and stuff. But now of late, you know, we've got more and more things like Power Rasputin stacks, Font of Might stacks with other stuff. So we're starting to go back to where we was. You know, it doesn't need to be, you know, 8 buffs and debuffs all at once, but you're just a couple of things stacking, because it makes you a better player as well. More knowledge about the game, stuff like that. And if it means that if we're too powerful for bosses, bump up all the HP of everything up. Make buffs and debuffs more available in the game. Maybe, you know, a tutorial or something in the game to teach people how buffs and debuffs work, because a lot of people don't understand really how buffs and debuffs work, because there isn't really any good in-game descriptions for new players. So you can just see there we melted that champ there with Grand Overture. That was 20 missiles, right? Radiant, High Energy Fire, and it just melts. It just melts champs. It does good boss damage as well, which you'll see me use that on the final boss at the end. So yeah, as I said, it's super fun to. This was such a fun run to me to do. It was sort of refreshing because it wasn't the same as just running the same old tired stuff. This was something, as I said, completely new. I didn't expect it to be this good. But acute arc burns on, I understand that. But it would still, even if you take that off, this machine gun would still be decent at its role, at what it's trying to do. What I'm trying to do here is take down this arc shield. I don't generally play like this, but I've got plenty of ammo from my arc heavy, so we'll go for the high priority target first. Obviously, the battlefield, if you know, you don't need to clear out all the adds, just the 2 majors and the champs. Obviously, you still get plat. There's really no need to take out all those adds in the middle, unless you are needing heavy. If you are, then obviously you can go ahead and take them out. So these me showcasing it at range. So if you just saw there how good, I'm going to use it a little bit more if I can. This is the single fire mode, which, as I say, is really good once it gets going. Once you get into that full auto cycle, it's just that initial startup of the guns a little, like, look, see that charge? You see on the scope, it's showing you when it's charged. So there's that little charge time, which is a little, it's a little unorthodox. It's a little annoying, I suppose, when you have to re-enter full auto to then stop firing, sort of thing. And sometimes you might have to do that mid-play, depending on what enemies you're playing. So I can see why people wouldn't like it as much as maybe Xenoverse, because that's instant damage. It's just instant. You start firing and you're good to go. But that's just the nature of the weapon, I guess. It has that charge time. We'll just finish off this VIP target. I'm actually trying to get some more volleys, just to try and showcase this weapon as much as possible. Generally I would use a super and stuff on these VIPs, but I'm not even going to do that. I actually didn't use, I don't think I used my super once the entire run, which is not like me, but as I say, I'm trying to show this exotic off. Because if I'm killing them with the super, I'm not getting ammo for volleys, and I want as many volleys as I can, really. So we've got 20 volleys. This VIP target, he's quite tanky, he's arc shielded, so I want to try it. You notice the recoil there, like, it's quite difficult to handle, as you saw. The worst thing you can do is aim your recoil to the ground, then your missiles will be wasted. But if it's somewhere in the vicinity of the target, even if it's slightly higher than that target, those missiles will auto-seek onto the target. Right, so I'm just going to clear out these 2 mages. I generally don't do this either, but I'm just going to do it because there is a chance that they can shoot us later on when we get to the transit section. There is a possibility of it. It's a low risk, but it can happen. Also, I need heavy. I knew that there was a brick somewhere. I just couldn't mind where it got dropped to, whether it was the sniper or the champ that dropped me heavy. It's somewhere knocking about. I'll end up finding it in a minute. Yeah, it's over there, if you see on the hill. So I just cutely saw that. So I'll go and pick up that. And then obviously there's going to be an unstoppable up top. We're using a glaive. I haven't really mentioned about the glaive at all. Enigma, because it's void. It's the one that I've crafted. It's the first glaive I started using. Very good glaive. Exceptional. Even for Grandmasters, because of the capability of the shield. It's super strong. The glaive shield. You'll find that you're never worrying for ammo with glaives as well. You'll find that you're very rare running out of glaives, so they're also very good on ammo. And the melee function obviously doesn't consume ammo. We're trying to get a stun here as quickly as we can, so Revitalize and Blast can proc on all the rest of the enemies and kill them. Because your goal isn't to kill the Unstoppable. Your goal is to stop the Unstoppable while killing all the rest of the ads. That's what your goal is. Once you do that, you've isolated just you and the champ, and then the champ's easy, right, just to take out. Pretty simple. If there's any exploding barrels left, you can actually just hike them down here, whatever you, just sort of nudge them, should we say? Nudge them. It actually aggroes the champ if done properly. It wasn't done properly because the barrel didn't fall to the floor. But eventually the champ will come to you. This is just showing you an easier way of taking this barrier, right? So he will eventually just aggro on you. Sometimes he'll shoot depending on the position and stuff. But he might be just idle as well, like so. So I'm just going to utilize new purpose with a barrier, with a rally barricade behind me, so that we can get that increased reload and stuff. Let the grenade do the work, the hammer. And that's the champ dealt with. There's 2 cleavers down below. I'm going to shoot some of these explosive barrels first before we go down. They can actually kill you because environmental damage is increased on this Nightfall. It has a higher chance of killing you, especially when you try to run past enemies or something. They might shoot it, or the cleavers can actually blow them up when they do their ranged attack. Pretty simple to deal with these, of course. Try not to be overconfident, I guess, though, because if you see my health here, see the 2 melees just got me to 1 shot. That's 100% resilience helped me out, but that's also sloppy play as well. Finishing one and then expecting to finish the other, or deal damage to the other, and that was a sort of sloppy play. But you can see even with sloppy play, you'll still be fine with the 100% resilience. So this is the section I was on about. The solar shields that we just took out before, they can actually hit you from here. Sometimes. It just depends if you're jumping up a lot and stuff, they'll start to shoot over. Just depends. I just took them out, as I say, because I have a good solar build on anyways. So what we're doing here is obviously skipping the transit section. You do not need to kill this Unstoppable. You are allowed to skip 1 champion in this and you will still get platinum rank. So you can choose which champ you skip. Obviously you may as well just skip this one because it's the most awkward Unstoppable to deal with in the whole run. So I just choose this one as opposed to some other champs that are easy to take out. Make sure that you, if you're doing this though, you have a couple of barricades handy. Just because there's a possibility you could still die there with the nades and stuff. And then we'll make our way to the unstoppables and the void shields. This is why we've got a void glaive on as well. Sometimes dogs, I've just looked back, look behind me, 'cause sometimes the dogs can get stuck in the teleporter and come over with you. That is a possibility, and you might not notice, so I was just looking. Well, this is where we're going to start doing some charges for our volley, for the boss, because I want 20 volleys when we get to boss damage, because I was curious to see what it would actually do with all the buffs and the acute burn and stuff like that. Champ's pretty finishable. So we just fought it from a distance. You notice I didn't push where the void backpacks were. I didn't push where the snipers were, because that's just increasing risk. So stay behind that cover, right, and then just take the champ from a range. It's not a problem. Be careful of these snipers, because even if you damage a little bit by another enemy, they could clean you up, basically a cleanup kill on you. So you don't want that to happen. So make sure you take out the snipers. That's dealt with. Just a backpack to deal with. I'm going to show off adaptive munitions a little bit. So that's putting in decent work on an unmatched shield there. Not too bad. The first two bursts, I guess, are not very good. But because of adaptive munitions, how it works, it steeps up. The more you fire that enemy, the more the buff increases. I don't know the exact percentages. It's on light.gg if you're really interested in that. It actually goes through. If you just type in on light.gg adaptive munitions, go on the perk, it'll actually tell you exactly all the percentages. So it is interesting. See, I'm not a numbers guy. I play with my sense and feel for things. Right? I am a numbers guy. Obviously, I've got to be. I've got to know the game because I play it a lot. So I am a numbers guy in a way, but I'm not just a numbers guy only. You've got to have a little bit of common sense with this game at times and be like, right, well, technically this weapon's better than this weapon, but this weapon B is slightly less damage, but it's easier to use for the user. And that's what numbers, when people do these DBS tests, they don't account for the players who play the game. You know, the DBS tests are based on perfect world scenarios, perfect in-game things that happen, but things don't go perfect. Even for the best players in this game, only 90% of the time things go good. There's that 10% or 5% where things mess up, or they mess up. No one's perfect in this game, not one single player. Every player I've watched, there's always somebody makes a mistake at some point. Doesn't matter how good you are, there's always somebody making a mistake. But no one is perfect in the game. But obviously there is, you know, an upper echelon of players who are better than other players. Just like with anything, ever, right? You know, sports, whatever you can think of. So it's just a case of when I'm doing a dungeon loadout or a Grandmaster loadout, I consider the viewer and their skill level and what would be easier to them to use. But I also do the skilled runs as well. I want to sort of push myself as well, because if I don't do that, my gameplay will get worse. And you need to keep on top of your skill. If it goes down, it will degrade, is what I'm trying to say. So I can't just do stuff that's nonsensical all the time. It has to be having me engaged, but also, as I say, other runs are where the viewer's considered as well, like what would be better for them. It's not always a case of the highest damage weapon wins. It doesn't always work like that. Depends on the activity you're doing, depends on the requirements, what boss you're against. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. This is a good place to fight this barrier. I'm also charged with light. I maintained that on purpose. So look, I'm trying to get the kills with the grade. This fusion didn't kill the phalanx for some reason, as he had his shield up, I guess. This barrier is pretty tough. I'm trying to conserve a little bit of heavy as well. I'll use a little bit just to up the volleys just that little bit more. Notice how well adaptive munitions is doing. See, the thing with Rally Barricade as well, it's a shorter cooldown as opposed to Towering, which means it works better with Heart of Inmost Light. It works better with the Classy Restoration. So what I would say is Towering Barricade's amazing, right? But the better Titan you are, like, you can tell how good someone is on a Titan if they're using Rally or Towering. If they're using Rally, they're more confident on that class. If they're using Towering, they're likely not as confident, or they might have a specific reason why they are using Towering. But specifically, I'm talking in regards to this season because of Classy Restoration. If you're using Rally, it's probably, especially in Grandmasters, it's probably because you're more confident and you realise the Rally Barricade's adding some extra stuff like more range and stuff like that, and an increased reload, which is super handy if you've got a weapon that hasn't got a good reload. Like this this Kinetic Pulse, I haven't got a good reload thing on it. It's just got that bit of Spite Origin perk, which is alright. It's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's not working the entire time. Its uptime's quite low. It's only up sometimes. So that's why I would say this season you should be really always using Rally, because we've got Classy Restoration. When that goes, things might change. I might originate back to my Tower and Barricade style. Just depends. This is the next location I deal with the barriers. Notice I've left dogs alive. We leave the dogs alive on purpose, so that the barriers will be focused on the dogs and not me. It just makes the whole thing easier. I also maintain Charge of Light. Notice Revitalize and Blast was killing the dogs, but it wasn't classed as my weapon killing the dogs because I maintained Charge of Light. It was classed as an area of effect kill, which is super handy. It means I've still got my 20% damage bonus, making these champs very easy. So I'm going to take the final champ from up here. The hardest thing about this part will be turbines for people. You might mistime your shield break because of the turbines. It's just a case of persevere with it. It's not too bad standing up here. A couple of phalanxes still left alive. I'm going to just go to the boss though. I'm 50 on ammo for the machine gun, which is a lot of ammo. I actually didn't realise how much ammo this equates to, like damage to a boss. So it's total damage thing, but it's a lot. Like it goes a far way. Bear in mind, obviously this is Grandmaster difficulty, right? This is the highest difficulty for this particular boss. So it's going to prove how decent it is. We're going to take down these unmatched shields. I'll show you various ways of doing that. So the glaive's a good way of taking an unmatched shield, depending on what target it is. See, harpies are one of the only enemy types in the game that doesn't have a stomp. They don't have any like sort of stomp thing. So you can just glaive them to death if you wish. I'll show you adaptive munitions as well. The goal here though is to make sure I keep charge of that. I haven't got shield break charge on in the build, but I didn't need it because I've got all sorts of other stuff on. But shield break is a good thing because you can just break the shields and you get charge of light. So we'll just finish them or kill them with the ability to maintain the charge of light, basically is what I'm doing. There's a heavy brick on the floor, so we pick that up after. This is efficiency for ammo. We'll pick that up after the boss damage plate 1 is done. So we'll do a barricade first for classy. We'll do a grenade and a radiant and the volleys, and you can see we're past the 3rd damage, and we've only used 10 ammo. So I've only used, so let's just get that straight, I've only used 10 ammo. I've done the 3rd damage to the boss, included with the missiles. And I've got 6 missiles for the next phase. So this is just showing you the utility of the weapon. I don't think I can do much more to sort of showcase how sort of good this is. But yeah, here's the single shot fire, the damage on it. Again, I am stacking buffs and stuff, but this is solo, don't forget. So it's still really doing well. I'm not going to use my volleys on the plate 2 because I didn't need to, but I want to use my volleys on plate 3 and show you the damage again. We've got some goblins. My goal is to clear these enemies while keeping charge of light if possible. I've got another well on the floor. I should be able to pick up that well before it runs out. Kill the ads first, of course. And that's as good. Boss is nearly a third HP. I'm going to do another volley. I need a couple more shots. See, I'm timing the damage on this because I know that if I do too much, I'll break his head off. I don't want to break his head off, but it's kind of a nightmare actually because I didn't know how much damage this would do. Like, would he break his head? If he breaks his head, that means a load of damage. Enemies are coming out. Like, a lot of enemies are coming out at once. Like 2-3 ad spawns. So you've seen the damage there. We got him to just before his head breaks off, so I was quite lucky with that. Any more damage, then he would have broke his head off, and that would ruin the run. Obviously, I'm not going to finish this run because I'm going to keep this checkpoint like I've been doing with all the other GMs. Well, not every single one, but most of them. Keep the checkpoint so I can run different loadouts as the season goes on. Right? There's a couple more weeks left, so there's still time to do other loadouts. So the goal is here now. Clear out all ads, leave boss to 5% HP, then go to orbit. That's a simulation of the run, so if I was to continue fighting the boss for 30 seconds more, I would kill the boss, get platinum rank, and obviously go to orbit. But obviously, I'm not doing that because I lose checkpoint. I'm sure you know. There's still some people confused about this, what I'm doing with the whole thing. People, why are you going to orbit before the boss? It's like, I've made multiple posts, I've told people this formula, that's what it is. If you do ask why I went to orbit again, I'm not going to reply to you because I'm sort of fed up with telling people about this. I guess it's confusing to people that don't. It's sort of counterintuitive. It's like, why aren't you getting your loot? Well, the loot doesn't matter too much to me anyways. The video content of stuff does matter far more than what loot is. I've got all the loot I could ever want. How much loot do you want in this game? I've got tons. Lots of weapons that I've never used yet in my vault that are just sitting there to be used. You know, so it's just a case of, I'll get my loot, don't worry about me, right? I'll get it near the end of the season as it goes. If we miss some weapons, we miss some weapons. There's not that much interest anyways, Nightfall weapon-wise. DFA, yeah. I mean, I'm not too fussed. How many kinetic hand cannons have we got with explosive payload now? We've got quite a few. It's got time payload on it. It's a 140 RPM. Yeah, that's alright. You know, Horror's Least pulse rifle, that's PvP based. It doesn't interest me in the slightest, that pulse. So you can see where I'm going with it. The Nightfall loot, I'm not impressed with on a PvE basis for this season. I think we've had better seasons like with Hung Jury and the Sniper, Uzumi, whatever it's called, Hothead, you know, even Plug 1. Like, you know, those weapons, they sort of interest me a bit more. So we're going to break the head off the boss. Now I'm just going to show you a little bit of survivability on the Titan on what you can do. So obviously we're on Heart of Inmost, like, as I've already said. So because Rally Barricade has a shorter cooldown, it means we can proc Classy Restoration more often. So the old strat, like I remember this from the old Prestige Nightfall strat, where this is how you survive. Look at the survivability here. I'm nearly dying. But you used to fight between these two pillars, left and right. Right, you would do that, and it would be a bit of map rotation. But your goal would be, obviously, if I was doing a legit run, I would have killed the boss by now and done my super. But at all costs, I cannot lose the CP, so I'm not going to do that. But I would just use a super, finish the boss off. But I'm just going to clear out all the ads, right, and then show off the machine gun a little bit. This is where the machine gun is also very good. Ad clear. It's decent because it's able to one-shot anything that will come in your path, even GM-wise. Ads, not orange bars, but, you know, red bars and stuff. So, it's really good, ease of use. Again, it's just the thing of the full auto thing. Because you can't always do sustained fire in GMs. There's times when you need to re-peak and peak. So that's what might put people off the weapon. But that's the final Fanatic kill. We'll just get him to, like, lowish HP and then just go to orbit from there. That was a solo GM on it using this weapon, Grand Overture. Hope you enjoy. Thank you.